So in 6 months, how many rides have you completed? 500, 600? Yeah.
Well, let me see. For Uber, I know I've completed at least 500. It used to give me a counter and tell me, but now it doesn't really show me. But I know I've done over 500. And then I drive for Lyft also. I started driving for them about, 2 or 3 months ago. And I've done 100 for them.
Yeah.
The volume just isn't as high for Lyft in this area.
Yeah. And I hear that it's different. I had, I'm sure I've been over like 200 rides, but I always ask, the drivers, like, what are they used to? When do they prefer to do it? And what do they recommend if someone were to do it? But yeah, most people do, one picks up, they say Uber usually is good, and then with Lyft, they would just have to be waiting around for a call. But then they got on both of them, and so when one slows up, the other one picks up.
Yep, that's what I do. I just turn them both on. You just once you're used to it, it's no big deal. Just get hit. When one of them hits, you just have to remember to turn the other on.
Yeah.
Turn right on North Oakland Road.
But I really like it. I've got a day job, and it's a good day job, and I didn't want anything to interfere.
Yeah.
This is perfect. And it's really as good a money as anything I can do part time on weekends.
Yeah. And you work a lot of weekends then? Do you work late for the weekends?
Not normally. Well, okay, yes. Friday and Saturday, I normally work really late till like 3 or 4 because those are just the best times.
Yeah.
Sunday, I don't normally work this late, but I took off.
You could take a right onto the highway here.
I took off last night. I took my wife out for her birthday, so I'm working later than usual tonight. But man, I'm staying busy. I can't complain at all.
And how about weekend drivers? You say you work pretty late. The drivers I've been with, they say that at a certain time they start getting a little bit weirder passengers. And it's understandable, people drink and this and that, but I had one guy tell me, for the most part, he was an older gentleman and he had a nice Lincoln, car, and he said he didn't have any issues. But I've dealt with lady drivers, and they say sometimes they, being men, they're just too aggressive or whatever, and so they're like, past a certain time we don't do it.
Yeah, because when people are drunk, they're obnoxious. And I have been really annoyed more than once, and I'm not anti-gay or anything like that, but I'm not gay, and the biggest problem I have is with drunk gay men sometimes.
Yeah, they're a little bit too much too.
I just kind of laugh it off, but after a while, you're like, I know how women feel. It's like, okay,
I had a guy tell me a young lady was like sobbing in her car and just sat over something, and then he didn't want to try to comfort her or anything. He was like, because with younger ladies they might be like, oh well, he likes me and this and that. Well, he avoided all that, and yet still when he dropped her off, she ended up asking him like, hey, do you want to come upstairs with me? And he was like, no, I don't think my wife would approve of that. So he's like, I just went on my way.
Yeah, you get some weird offers and things.
Yeah.
But I've had crying ladies in the car, and it's kind of funny. A lot of times I live in Fort Worth, so I work in Fort Worth, and there's like a constant train going from TCU. You feel like a train going from TCU to West 7th back and forth. And I noticed the pattern that the ones that you're bringing back, if it's before like 1 a.m., they all had a crappy night, and the girls are all crying. The guys are all pissed off. They went home early, though. And the ones you're taking are going out, and they're all
they're happy.
So.
Yeah, I hear that. The young ladies that I spoke to, they're like, what we do is, they know the bar area, the bar scene, so they only take people to those locations. They don't take people home from those locations, because some had issues where, they gave an address, everything, put it up, and then they'll be like, hey, you missed my house, and it's like, well, I'm going based off of the address you put in the system.
Yeah.
But again, they're drunk, so.
Yeah, one of the first drunks I ever took, it was a lady. First of all, she passed out, so I'm just following the GPS. She lived way out in the country.
Oh man.
So we get, I can't see any, and like the way they put in the address, it wasn't an exact address, it was like a range.
Oh, that's worse.
So, we get out there, and I'm like trying to wake her up, it shows you your name, so I'm, yelling her name, hey man, we're here, and she finally wakes up, and I'm like, I can't tell which house is yours, but she was so drunk, she didn't know which house was hers. So we finally figured it out, and then she kind of stumbles up there, and I can tell she can't, I think they took her keys away from her, because she was drunk.
Yeah.
Well, she couldn't get in her door, and I didn't know what to do, but I did a smart thing. I was like, I can't, walk up on her up there because, no telling, she might say, oh, he's trying to come up and assault me or something. So I just left her there. She's home or she's on somebody's porch. She can sleep on the porch.
Well, I work roadside assistance, and what we do is you can call the cops and just say, hey, can you do what is it, a well-being check or
that's
a welfare check. But again, that could maybe get her in trouble. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but
she seemed all right.
Yeah. Well,
she was drunk, but she seemed all right.
Yeah, it was. These are kind of like acre type ranchettes, and I figure, most people in those neighborhoods, even though they stay to themselves, they kind of know each other. So I figured if she was on the wrong porch, maybe they'd figure. So I'd be a little embarrassed, but I've had it happen many times where you drop off someone drunk and you're like, you're kind of wandering around, and finally I learned I feel bad, but I just go on, It's like
you can. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah, it's like I got it here.
Turn left on North Main Street.
The craziest story I found was we were in downtown and I actually had my friends go with me to a restaurant to eat, but the gentleman that happened to pick us up was in a Jaguar. I mean SUV. It was a nice car.
Yeah.
Lyft gives you that option any car you have, but so yeah, I asked him, I was like, hey man, what's the craziest story you had? And he said he picked up a little old lady, like, she was pretty beautiful and everything, just young.
Yeah.
And she ended up sitting right behind him, like you here, but behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, every now and then I would hear something like a lighter. And he was like, and I would get a smell.
Yeah.
And he was like, for the longest time I couldn't put my finger on it. And he's like, I thought it was one of those e-cigarettes, people have that. But he ended up saying that the lady was smoking crack.
Wow.
And he didn't know, like he couldn't look back. He could see a little light come on, but he was like, I thought it was an e-cigarette. And he was like, I'm pretty sure she was smoking crack. I ended up having to ask her, like, hey, I gotta go in emergency, whatever. But he dropped her off quick.
Well, actually, in this car, it's awesome. I mean, I love this car. It used to even be better. It didn't rattle as much. But I got in a wreck one night. It was like 2 a.m., picking up a couple of drunk people from the bar. And we got in a pretty bad wreck. And
It would be the next one, I'm sorry.
oh, okay. No, it's all right here. I should do it. Long story short, I'm like asking them, are y'all okay? And they're like, yeah, we're okay. We're like, we got to get out of here. There's too many cops here. So I don't know what the deal was, but they
were into
friend and I figured they had drugs on them or they had a warrant or something. But the guy was freaking out. I was like, man, there's too many cops here. I'm like, it's okay, man. You're with me. Because I thought he was being drunk.
Yeah, you're a passenger.
He's like, no.
Right here's fine.
Okay. All right, man. Appreciate the conversation.
No problem, man. Stay safe out there with those people.